Okay, so for 12.2 day 2, we're going to talk about partial sums. So yesterday, let's think about what we did. Can you tell me what we did yesterday? Okay, yeah, you found the common difference, and what was that? What was that called? What were those called? If you had a common difference, what was it? It's a sequence. What kind of sequence? It's an arithmetic sequence, right? Okay, so today we are going to do partial sums of arithmetic sequences. So the indicated sum of the terms of an arithmetic sequence is going to be given by the following formulas. So S sub n, what do you think S stands for? The sum, right? Okay, and then n is going to be whatever sum you're trying to find. So for instance, if I add S sub 1, okay, then that's the sum of the first term. So the first sum is actually the same, well, similar to what your first term is going to be. So if you had S sub 2, then you're going to be plugging 2 into your formula, similar to what we did with our other sums. Here's another way that you can write it. I'm actually going to show you how you can derive one from the other. Okay, so these are the exact same. They're just written in a different form. So you can think about if you distributed, or actually, let's think about it like this. If you had divided by 2, that's the same thing as what? Yeah, multiplying by 1/2. Okay, and if you're multiplying by 1/2, is it okay if I write this as n times 1/2 times a sub 1 plus a sub n? Okay, so instead of divided by 2, I can write it as times 1/2, correct? Okay, so what's n times 1/2? N over 2, okay? See how I already have the first part? Now I have a sub 1 plus a sub n. What does a sub n equal in an arithmetic sequence? A sub 1 plus, this is our equation from yesterday, n minus 1 times d. Okay, so if I substitute that into this equation, let's look and see what happens. I have a sub 1 plus a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. A plus 1 plus a plus 1, those are common terms. So I have 2a plus 1 plus n minus 1 times d. And this is the second equation. Isn't that cool? Okay. Okay, so you can use either one of those. They're the same equation, they're just written a little bit differently. So for example 1, we're going to find the sum of the first 40 terms of the arithmetic sequence, 3, 10, 17, 24. And then I asked you to think about what do you need in order to find a value for the given equation. So if you need to use your equation S sub n, you're going to have to know what your n value is. Okay, so your n value is going to be 40. Okay, so then we're going to substitute this into our formula. So S sub 40, so what I'm doing is I'm replacing my n with 40. Okay, so instead of n, I'm going to have 40. And then, Hugh, what's my a sub 1 term? Uh-huh. Yeah, so, but what's your a sub 1? Yeah, 3, right? So 3 plus, and then a sub n would be a sub 40, and then divided by 2. Okay, so then we can do 40. to plug in a number for a sub 40. Do I know what that is yet? No. Okay, so I need to find a sub 40. Do we already know how to do that? Yeah, we do. Okay, so you can use your equation from yesterday. Okay, so really your first step is find a sub 40. Okay, so why do we do that? Because if we set up our equation, we have to plug in a value for a sub 40. Okay, so we're going to use our equation from yesterday. So our equation from yesterday, I'll just write it here. So use a sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. Do you guys feel like you have that memorized after doing your homework? Well, you weren't here yesterday. Oh, okay. So a sub 40 is going to be, or sorry, a sub 1 is going to be 3, and then plus, if I plug in 40, 40 minus 1 is 39, times the difference. So looking at our sequence, Maraf, what's my d value going to be?
7.
Yeah, good. How'd you get it? Right, so you just have to add 7 to the next number, so your d value is going to be 7. Okay, so your a sub 40 is going to be 276, and then we're going to substitute. Okay, so we're going to substitute that into the sum equation. All right, so now I can finish my steps from before. So this will be, if you do 3 plus 276, you'll get 279 divided by 2. Okay, so when you're multiplying, I feel like you guys already know how to do this, but you'll do 40 multiplied by what? And then divide that by 2. Okay, and then for S sub 40, Hayden, did you already calculate that? Oh. Okay, what'd you get? 5,580. Thank you, Nitro. Okay, so S sub 40 is 5,580. Okay, and then the other method, or, okay, so, or you can use the second equation. So the second equation is n over 2, so 40 over 2, 2 times a sub 1, so our a sub 1 is 3, plus 39 times 7, and then Hayden, will you do 39 times 7 for me? Actually, 3 times 7 is what? I'll show you how you guys can do. I'll show you how you guys can do it without your calculator. So 3 times 7 is what? 21. So because it's like 30 times 7, it'll be 210. 9 times 7 is 63. So that's how you can do it like really quickly without your calculator. Okay, and then when you multiply those together, you are still going to get the 5,580. Okay, so which one is going to be quicker? The second one. Viviana, why? Do you know?
Like you then have to find it.
Yeah, what don't you have to find in the second one? Yeah, you don't have to find the a sub 40. Okay, so I definitely would recommend doing this one. When might this be helpful though? Oh yeah, when you have a sub 40, good. Or if you're given the sum and you have to find the 40th term, right? That would be a good way too. Okay, for example 2, we're going to find the partial sum. So remember, the partial sum is denoted by S sub n of the arithmetic sequence that satisfies the given conditions. Okay, so for this, they give us A equals 55. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday with our formulas, but this is going to be the same thing as A sub 1, exactly. So we're going to plug this in for A sub 1. Okay, remember in yesterday's equation, I showed you how sometimes they're going to write it without the A sub 1. Okay, so if we're going to find the partial sum, again, you can choose which method you want to use. So you can either find A sub 10 first and then plug it into the formula, okay, or you can just plug it into the second one. I'm just going to show you both ways so you get exposure to both, and you can choose which way you want to do. So I'll say first method. You could do S sub 10. So you'd have to find A sub 10, which would be A sub 10 equals A sub 1 plus n minus 1 times your D, which is given to you. And then you'll find A sub 10 is 163. And then step 2, really I guess I should call it A and B. Step 1, step 2. So then S sub 10 would be 10, A sub 1 plus A sub 10 divided by 2, which would get you 1,090. Or your second method, you only have one step. Okay, and so then you'll have S sub 10 equals 10 over 2. 2 times A sub 1 plus 10 minus 1 times 12. Okay, and then obviously some of these things you're going to be able to do right away. Like if you notice it's 10 divided by 2, you can write that as 5. You can double your A sub 1 term right away, right? We know that's going to be 110. Okay, and then 9 times 12, which will be 108. And then again, you'll get 1,090. Okay. All right, and then, yeah, again, this method is going to be quicker for these, so feel free to do it. I just want to show you how you can use either equation. Okay, and then for example 3, a partial sum of an arithmetic sequence is given, and we are going to find the sum. Okay, so for step 1, what we're going to find for this, so this will be given to you. When you're given the summation notation, if we're going to find S sub n, the first thing that we'll want to find is the first term and the 15th term. Okay, so for this one, we are going to use the equation. Remember that your equation for the sum, this is the new one that we did today, is S sub n equals n a plus 1 times a sub n over 2. Okay, now for this one, this equation is actually going to be quicker, and we can talk about why in a little bit. So if I'm going to use this equation, I have to know what n is, the number of terms, and then I'm also going to have to find a sub 1 and a sub n. Does anybody remember from the other day how I told you you could find the terms by looking at the sigma notation? That's, yeah, good. Okay, so subtract the top number from the bottom and then add 1. So 15 minus 1 is what? 14. 14 plus 1 is 15. Okay, so there's going to be 15 terms. And I'm just going to make a note of that as well. So there's 15 terms. So that means I have to find the a sub 1 and the a sub 15. Okay, so the first and the 15th terms is what I'm trying to find. And again, the reason why I'm doing that is because I have a sub 1 here that I have to plug in, and then I have a sub n here that I have to plug in. Okay, so to find a sub 1, if you're finding the first term, if k equals 1, what am I going to do first here? Yeah, Ben, tell us. Yep, for k. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to use this equation and plug in 1 for k. So 5 plus 2 times k. So a sub 1 is going to be 7. Okay, and then for a sub 15, 5 plus 2 times 15. And then a sub 15 equals 35. Now with this one, because it started at 1, I was able to plug in 1 to find the first term. Is that always going to happen necessarily? No. You're always going to start with whatever k is. So if k equaled 4, to find a sub 1, you would plug in 4 first. So it all depends on what's in the denominator. And then for your second step, you can find s sub 15. Which I know some of you have already done. Okay, so if you do s sub 15, you're going to have n, which is the number of terms, your first term plus your last term, your a sub n, divided by 2. Okay, so you're going to add those together, divide by 2. 35 and 7 is 42. 42 divided by 2 is what? 21. When you multiply them together, you get 315. Is that what you guys got? Good. Can anybody think about why we use this one instead of the second equation? Yeah, you would have to find the d value. And for this one, in order to find the d value, there are a couple different ways you could do it. Does anybody think they know one way? Remember that you can find d by just subtracting what two things? Yeah, so couldn't I also just find a1 and a2? I already found a1. If I'm going to find a2, it's 5 plus 2 times 2, right? Okay, so it would be a sub 2 is going to be 9. So 9 minus 7 equals what? 2. So that's my common difference. Where is that in our equation? Okay, and then so it's a linear function. And so really the 2 is representing the what? The slope, right? It's the change. So the change, the rate of change is the slope. So that's what your difference is going to be here. Okay, and then let's flip it to the back. So for part B, it says S sub 18 for 13 plus 2 plus negative 9 plus negative 20. Okay, and see how I nicely wrote out the steps for you here? That way when you're doing your homework later today, you can go back and you can follow those steps. So step 1 is find the common difference. Okay, well we actually just talked about that. Your common difference is going to be a sub 2 minus a sub 1. Okay, so then you already have your a sub 2 and your a sub 1. Maraf, what's your a sub 2 and your a sub 1?
A sub 2 is 2 and a sub 1 is 13.
Good, okay, so you already have these, and now I can just subtract them. So 2 minus 13, which means my difference is going to be negative 11. Okay, and again, make sure if you are just looking at it, if it's going down, that you do include the negative. Okay, don't forget that. Okay, for step 2, we're going to find the a sub 18th term. Okay, and again, that's because you have s sub 18, okay, that you're trying to find. So we can use a sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. So your a sub 18 is going to be the first term, 13, and then, is it okay if I just put 17 in here? Because 18 minus 1 will be 17 times your difference, negative 11. Okay, and then step 3, we're going to find s sub 18. So now we're going to find the sum. So using our sum formula, which is the number of terms, and then a sub 1 plus, and this is going to be plus a negative, so I'm just going to write it as minus. Okay, so plus a negative will be minus. Okay, now, do I have to do it like that? Yeah, I can, yeah, Kira, I can skip the middle step and do what? Yeah. So, or, and this is the way that the book is going to show you, and as we get to some more complicated ones, we are going to end up doing 3 steps. But for this one, you can actually skip this step. So, I'm going to write or. After step 1, you can go to step 3 and use the second equation. Okay, so if you do that, your second equation, if I'm doing s sub n, this will be s sub 18 equals 18 over 2. 2 times your a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. Okay, and you, bless you, and you will end up getting the same answer. So you'll still get your negative 1,449. Okay, so because you have 2 equations, I do want you to think about, hey, when is it more beneficial to use this equation? When is it going to save me a little bit of time here? And you can choose. So you can choose whichever one you want to do. Like I said, I do want to show you multiple ways, and as we move on, we are going to have one where you're going to have 3 steps. So this is prepping you for that, and that's why the book does it like that. Okay, so now our favorite story problems. So example 4, the center section of a concert hall has 15 seats. So I'm thinking that's going to be important, that there's 15 seats in the first row. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight that. Okay, and then Skylar, what's something else I should probably highlight?
2 additional seats.
Yep, so I have 2 additional seats in each subsequent row. Okay, how many seats are in the 20th row? Okay, so there's a couple different ways that you can do this. If you have 15 seats in the first row, you can think of that as what term? Yeah, a sub 1. So a sub 1 is going to be 15. Do you guys know what you can think of the 2 additional seats in each subsequent row? It's going to be it's going to be the common difference, right? And because they're additional, your d value is going to be 2. Okay, so I'll show you how you can use the formula in order to do that. You want to ask yourself for part A, if it says how many seats are in the 20th row. So how many seats are in the 20th row? Ask yourself, are they looking for a sum or are they just looking for a term? So if it's the 20th row, Okay, just the seats in the 20th row, is that going to be a term or a sum? It's going to be a term. If it was the sum, what might the question ask? Yeah, it'll say something like the total, which you may see in part B, and we'll go over that as well. So how many seats are there in the 20th row? Okay, so this is not a sum. Okay, so we're going to use our arithmetic sequence formula. So we're going to use a sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. So a sub 20. So in the 20th row, if you start with 15 seats in the first row, and then in each subsequent row, there's going to be 2 additional. Do you guys know 19 times 2? You can do 20, if you don't know it right away, do 20 times 2 minus 2. I know, I'm just helping you for your mental math skills. The SAT no calculator portion is going to come here before you know it. Okay, so if I get a sub 20 equals 53, what does that mean in terms of the problem? Yeah, so in the 20th row, there are 53 seats. Now, do you have to do that one with the formula? Yeah, were some of you thinking that you could just write it out? Yeah, but what's kind of the drawback to writing it out for that? Yeah, because you're going to have to do it 20 times, right? Okay, so you're just going to keep adding 2. Really, you could also find the difference. So from the first row and the 20th row, okay, if there's 2, if you do 20 minus 1, which is 19, and you multiply that by 2, that keeps getting added each time, then 19 times 2 will be the 38, and then you just have to add that to your original. Okay, but yes, you could absolutely write that out. Okay, so for part B, it says how many seats total. So that word total is important here. Okay, how many seats total are in the first 20 rows? So whenever you see something like total, that's going to indicate to you that you have to find the sum. Okay, which is S sub 20. Okay, and then for this one, is there one equation that's going to be faster than the other one?
Yes.
That, yeah, I think the first one might be a little bit faster. So we are going to use that, and that's because you already have a sub 20. So you know S sub 20 is going to be 20 over 2. Oh, sorry. That's not the one I want to use.
Use it anyway.
Okay, I'll show you both ways. So if you use the first formula, you do 2 times 15 plus 19 times 2. I'm going to say, yeah, or this is the second equation, so I'll just write that down. This is the second equation. Or the first equation, which for this one I would use the first equation. Okay, and that's because you have S sub 20 and you have n, which is 20, times, I'm going to write this out first, a sub 1, a sub 20, divided by 2. And you already have a sub 1 and a sub 20. So you have 20, a sub 1 is 15, a sub 20 you just found is 53. What might be the one drawback to maybe doing this on a test, though, using this one? Exactly. If you don't have the first one correct, then that could affect your outcome for the second one. Okay, so there are 680 seats total in the first 20 rows. Okay, now what you've all been waiting for, your homework. So this is page 798. We just did section 12.2. And this homework log is up for you to check. And remember I said if you got done early tomorrow that you could, or really Monday or Tuesday, you could use the time in class to do that. And I'm going to give a shout out here to Miss Vessel for going through this lesson with my lovely 5th period today. Hopefully they did not give you too much trouble. They can be a little crazy sometimes, but can't we all? Alright, and then here's your 12.2, and then you guys can work on that. I'm talking to you, 5th period. You better get to work. Work, 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 work. Hey, have a lovely day and a lovely weekend, and I'll see you on the flip side.